My husband left me with 2 kids, no money, and a mortgage I could barely pay. Said I'd never make it on my own. 3 months later, I showed up to court with $178,000 in my account, and a lawyer. My husband walked out completely pale. If someone had told me a week ago that I'd buy a lottery ticket and it would change my life, I'd have told them to lay off the energy drinks. Or maybe sleep more. Or both. Because I'm Nicole. I don't buy lottery tickets. I'm the one counting pennies at checkout, putting back laundry detergent, buying only what we need for today. But that evening, something just went sideways. Although, if I'm being honest, things had been going sideways long before that. I got home an hour earlier than usual. My boss looked at me and said, "You look like someone who's about to cry in the canned goods aisle. Go home." Nice guy. I picked the kids up from aftercare, grabbed a cheap pizza, and headed home. My husband wasn't there. Which was weird, he's usually already collapsed on the couch by then, scrolling ESPN or texting someone. Back then, I was still pretending not to know who the someone was. He came home later that night. No dinner, sour expression, and that kind of fake exhaustion that's really just apathy wearing sweatpants. He sat down without looking at me and said, "I filed for divorce." Just like that. No build-up. Not even a "we need to talk." I didn't say a word. Not a single one. Just slowly nodded, like he'd asked if I wanted another scoop of ice cream. I'd known for a while that he was seeing someone. There were no tears. Just burnout. We have 2 kids, ages 7 and 9. I work as a nurse in a clinic. Sometimes I take hospital shifts on weekends. We're paying off a mortgage. He worked too, but lately his contributions were more emotional support than financial help. The next day, I got up as usual. Got the kids ready. Made oatmeal. Went to work. Everything was the same, except one thing, no more illusions. After my shift, I stopped by the local grocery store. Had about $20 to spend. Bread, milk, eggs. That was the list. Nothing else. At the register, the cashier scanned something without asking. A lottery ticket. I hadn't even been paying attention. She mumbled something about a new game and a bonus promo. I nodded automatically. Honestly, I thought she was asking if I needed a paper bag. When the total jumped by $2, I realized it wasn't bread, but I just shrugged. "Whatever. You want to cancel it?" she asked. "Leave it," I said. "It's not like things can get worse." I shoved the ticket into my purse and forgot about it. Didn't even look at it when I got home. Honestly, I forgot I had it at all. 3 days later, after another long shift, I stopped in again to grab some frozen veggies. Same cashier. "You still have that ticket from last time?" she asked. "Uh-huh," I mumbled and fished around in my purse. "Wanna check it? Maybe you got lucky." I don't believe in luck. Especially not mine. Still, I handed it to her. She scanned it, and then froze. Miss," she started. "Don't tell me I won a pack of gum," I said. "No. You'll need to go to the lottery office for this one. We're not allowed to pay out that much." I stared at her. "How much is that much?" I asked like I didn't understand English. She scribbled a number on a piece of paper and slid it over. I looked down, and my chest tightened. $178,000. I don't know how long I stood there in shock. 2 minutes, maybe. The girl kept smiling and telling me this was super rare, and to please not tell anyone until I went to the main office. On autopilot, I took the note, the ticket, the receipt. Walked home. The kids were asleep. I sat down at the kitchen table, laid the ticket in front of me, and all I could think was, please don't let him find out. Because if he found out, he'd come running. He'd say it was our money, that we were still legally married, that he had invested in this family, probably emotionally. But I remembered, he filed for divorce before I bought that ticket. He'd already left. That mattered. It meant he had no legal right to the money. I Googled. I read articles. Confirmed it. In most U.S. states, any asset acquired after divorce proceedings begin is considered separate property, especially if there's no shared intent or joint purchase. He had already checked out. He hadn't given me a cent since he walked out. For the first time in months, I didn't feel fear. I felt control. A little. Like life had finally nodded and said, "You made it. Here's your life raft." I didn't jump for joy. I didn't scream. I just sat in the kitchen, holding the crumpled ticket the cashier accidentally scanned, and thought about how it might pay off the mortgage, buy the kids proper winter boots, or at least let me breathe without panicking about tomorrow. If someone filmed my life that month as a TV series, it would have been called "Silence is My Weapon." I didn't tell a soul about the lottery win. Not the kids. Not my friend. And definitely not my, God forbid, husband. Even calling him my husband at that point felt overly generous. After I won, I didn't run to Tiffany's. Didn't order lobster and a rare steak. I went home. Our microwave had just died, and my oldest needed construction paper and markers for a school project. In a world where I technically had $178,000, I sat on the kitchen floor wondering if I had 50 cents left till payday. I opened a new bank account. Different bank. My name only. No bells and whistles, just a plain checking account. As soon as the money hit, I transferred it. Just in case, I asked the banker, "My husband has no access, right?" She looked up. "You're not officially divorced yet?" "Not yet," I said. "But he filed. And I'm not fighting it." She nodded, like that explained everything. And it kinda did. He was still living in the house. On the couch. Out of principle, apparently. Kept saying it was his home too, until we're legally done. Never mind that I paid most of the bills. He ate my food, drank my coffee, and called me ungrateful. Once he even scoffed, "You can't even afford decent coffee." That was the first time I almost told him about the lottery. Almost. Instead, I just looked at him and asked, "Can you?" I picked up a side job through another nurse at the clinic. Evening shifts at the pharmacy, unloading and sorting shipments. Just a couple hours here and there. Carol, my neighbor, watched the kids. She's retired, no grandkids of her own, and somehow gets along great with mine. I paid her what I could, sometimes cash, sometimes baked goods. She swore she wasn't doing it for the money. I pretended to believe her. One night I came home from the pharmacy, exhausted. He was at the kitchen table eating leftover mac and cheese. Didn't even look up. Just muttered, "You're late. Hope you're not out whoring around." I walked right past him without a word. He thrived on provoking me. I used to think I had to answer every jab. Now I knew, silence is scarier than shouting. Especially for men like him. I remember the day the court letter came, down to the paper. White envelope. Courthouse seal. The hearing was set for 1 month out. When I went to the clerk's office to confirm the date, the woman said, "Just in case, get yourself a lawyer." I nodded. I already had one. Hired him a week earlier. The same one who confirmed the lottery money was mine alone. "Don't rock the boat," he'd warned. "No sudden moves. Don't touch the mortgage just yet, it might raise questions." So I stayed still. Woke at 6, took the kids to school and daycare, went to my day job, came home, cooked, cleaned, sometimes headed to the pharmacy. Didn't buy myself a single new thing. Only got winter boots for my son and a new coat for my daughter. Even that, Carol insisted on. For the kids, it's allowed. For you? Not yet. My husband didn't notice a thing. Too busy being busy. Started browsing car listings, texting memes to friends, flirting on his phone like I wasn't even there. Didn't even bother hiding it. One time, my daughter overheard him and came up to me with this quiet, heartbreaking voice. "Mom, does Daddy not love us anymore?" I didn't know what to say. So I told her. He's just tired. And he's changed. Some nights I wanted to run. Grab the kids and disappear. But the house was in both our names. The mortgage too. If I left, he could stop paying, trash the place, let the bank take it. And we'd lose everything. So I stayed. Under one roof with a man who saw me as a burden. One night, as I wiped down the counters, he tossed out, "You ever stop to think how you'll survive after the divorce? Without me?" I dried my hands, looked him in the eye, and said, "We'll see." While he waited for me to break, I was quietly getting things in order. Gathering paperwork. Meeting with my lawyer. Rewriting the budget. I already knew how I'd pay off debt, feed the kids, fix the washing machine. I had a plan. A future. Without him. And I knew we'd be okay. Then one morning he just left. Packed his things, no goodbye. On the kitchen table, his coffee mug and his car insurance bill. I tossed the paper, washed the mug, closed the door. For good. That night, I slept through the whole night. First time in months. My lawyer, Mr. Hanley, just nodded when I handed him the envelope. Court stamp. Hearing date. A list of documents we had to submit. He flipped through the papers quickly, like he already knew exactly what was inside. We're required to disclose all assets, he said, straightening up. They'll ask about savings, salary, property. Ready? I nodded silently and pulled out the bank statement. That one. The new account. With the lottery money. He glanced at it and gave a low whistle. $178,000. Net. And you're still living with that man under the same roof. Until the bank kicks me out, yeah, I replied. He smirked, but his eyes were kind. Just keep your mouth shut. In court, facts only. No emotions. The hearing was on a Wednesday. I showed up in a plain blazer, no makeup, hair tied back. I looked like someone who definitely didn't have $178,000 in the bank. Alex showed up in jeans and a hoodie. Beside him was some guy he probably knew from work, his lawyer. They were cracking jokes in the hallway, like they were there to split a blender and a toaster. When we got to the financial disclosure part, everything went smooth, until my lawyer handed the judge our documents, including the bank statement. I didn't look at Alex, but I felt his stare. For the first time ever, he put his phone down. What is that? He barked, forgetting we were in court. The judge raised an eyebrow. Questions through counsel, please. Alex leaned over and whispered frantically to his attorney. The guy stood up, adjusted his tie, and said, Your Honor, we believe this lottery win occurred while the couple was still legally married. Therefore, it qualifies as marital property. Mr. Hanley didn't flinch. He stood calmly and said, Please note the purchase date on the lottery ticket. Here's the receipt. The ticket was bought 7 days after the respondent filed for divorce. We also have a statement from the plaintiff and a witness declaration from the store clerk confirming the ticket was purchased accidentally, not with any shared funds. The judge looked over the documents carefully, then looked up. Mr. Respondent, did you cease contributing financially to the household after filing for divorce? Alex nodded. I was tired of supporting everyone by myself. Thank you. The court rules the lottery winnings as the plaintiff's separate property. The respondent's claim is denied. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Alex went pale. His lawyer whispered something to him, but he was already gathering his stuff. A minute later, he walked out. And I never saw him again. I just sat there, listening to the hum of voices fading in the hallway. I didn't want to move. Not because I was tired. Because I couldn't believe it was really over. The next day, I went to the bank and filed for a lump sum mortgage payment. The loan manager gave a small, polite smile. Looking to shorten the loan term? No, I said. I want to lower my monthly payment. She nodded. Smart. We signed the papers. And when I walked out of that bank, I felt like I could breathe again. Like I'd been underwater for years and had finally surfaced. On the way home, I bought the kids pizza. Real pizza. Not frozen. And gummy bears. Because I could. We sat on the floor in the living room, eating with our hands and watching cartoons. My daughter leaned on my shoulder and whispered, You're the strongest mom. I didn't cry. But something cracked inside. In the best way. For the first time in a long time, I believed we were going to be okay. But the weirdest part came after. Silence. No texts. No accusations. No calls. Alex vanished like he'd never existed. And that felt better than any amount of money. I kept working. Not because I had to anymore, but because I wanted the routine. The money stayed in the account. I only used what I needed, to pay off the mortgage, buy the kids new winter gear, and replace the washing machine. The old one was literally held together with duct tape, and every time I ran a load, I prayed the drum wouldn't fly across the kitchen. I didn't touch the rest. No new phone. No vacation. No designer boots. Like I was afraid that if I got too comfortable, it would all vanish. Like a dream I wasn't allowed to enjoy yet. Carol, my neighbor, noticed the change. You look like you're finally sleeping again. Something happened. I just smiled. Maybe. Well, you've earned a little happiness. Just don't lose it. I promised myself I wouldn't. That night, I lay down in my own bed in my own home alone, and slept straight through the night. No anxiety. No nightmares. That alone felt like a win. A real one. And then something new began. I started running. Just around the block at first. Then 2. After a couple of weeks, I could run a mile without stopping. It felt like I was running away from the past. Or maybe toward the future, depending how you look at it. One morning on a jog, I saw a familiar face. A man with gray at his temples, wearing a track jacket. We almost passed each other, but then he said, "Nicole." I stopped. "Yeah. It's Jason. We went to high school together. I helped you with algebra, remember?" And I did. Quiet, sweet guy who always helped with homework. I hadn't paid much attention back then. Apparently, he'd had a massive crush on me. We grabbed coffee. Then did it again. Then he started coming by on weekends, to chat, fix things around the house, play with the kids. They loved him instantly. I didn't. Not right away. But slowly. I softened. He came back at the worst possible time, of course he did. I was putting a pie in the oven, the kids were doing homework, some old cheerful song was playing on the radio. It was almost peaceful. Almost. Then the doorbell rang, and there he was. No text. No warning. Just Alex, standing there in a worn-out jacket, holding 2 plastic grocery bags. His smile looked rehearsed, like he'd practiced it in front of the mirror. "Hey Nicole," he said, like he'd just stepped out to buy milk yesterday. I stared at him in silence. He waited for me to let him in. I didn't. I just wanted to see the kids. "And you. Talk," he added, shifting his weight awkwardly from one foot to the other. "Talk here," I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. He launched into it, that he missed us, that he'd done a lot of thinking, that he understood everything now. Maybe we could start fresh. For the family. For the kids. The words spilled out like dry sand from a torn bag. I didn't say a word. Just watched him. Not angry. Not sad. I had nothing left to say to someone who disappeared when we were on the edge. "I'm staying with my parents now. Lost my job." "It's hard," he added, like that was supposed to change something. "I get it," I nodded. "But you wanted freedom. Well, there it is." He tried to smile, but it didn't quite land. "You're strong." And I was an idiot. Carol, my neighbor, came out to check her mail. She looked over, saw us. Raised an eyebrow. "You good?" I gave her the slightest nod. "Can I at least see the kids?" he asked. His eyes looked watery. Or maybe that was just the wind. "They're doing homework. And you're not part of this home anymore. If you want to see them, file for visitation. Like an adult." He went quiet. That's not what he expected. He wanted drama. A scene. Emotion. But there was none left. "I'm not the same woman you left," I said. "And you know that." He stood there a bit longer. Then nodded. And walked away. Slowly. Like he was still hoping I'd call out to him. I didn't. I turned around and walked back into the kitchen, where Jason was helping my daughter with her school project. And for the first time, I realized, I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't lonely. And I didn't feel sorry. I didn't know what the future held. But for once in my life, I was curious. The pie didn't burn. The kids finished their homework. We ate dinner, the 4 of us. My daughter told a funny story from school. My son grunted over a riddle. It was just good. Later, I called Carol. Told her about the visit. She swore in her perfectly grumpy old lady way, and said, "If he shows up again, I'm calling the cops. Or throwing a broom at him." I laughed. Really laughed. A week later, my mom called. Asked if it was true, if Alex had come by. I said yes. She was quiet for a moment. Then asked, maybe it's worth thinking about? He is the father of your kids. No, Mom. He's not ours anymore. He's just his own. Let him live with that. She didn't bring it up again. I didn't change the locks. Not because I hoped, but because I wasn't afraid anymore. My bank account was still full. But that wasn't the point. The point was morning coffee in my own kitchen. The sound of my kids laughing at breakfast. The silence in the evening, not heavy, but soft. I made it. I survived. And now, I'm free. If you've made it all the way to the end, thank you. This story isn't about some fairy tale luck or perfect revenge. It's about real life, where sometimes everything falls apart. And somehow, you still manage to pick up the pieces. Sometimes silence is the best answer. Sometimes a random lottery ticket isn't just a ticket. And sometimes, you just have to hold on a little longer than you thought you could. If any of this hit home, leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Have you ever been through something like this?